and hopefully next year they'll be live and we can all be there together. I also want to let you know that on February 18th at 2 o'clock, we are going to have Forging New Frontiers, Women Leaders in the Pest Control Industry. And it's going to be moderated by Courtney and Eve Pappas. There's going to be a panel. Eve Pappas from Hoffman Exterminating in New Jersey. Sherry Spencer from Spencer Pest Services down in the Carolinas, and myself, Bono Pest Control. Really looking forward to that, and with Eve and Sherry and Courtney, and I hope you all can join us on that event. And that again is going to be February 18th. We also have the Woman of Excellence Award that we give out locally, New England members, and the application is actually on the nepma.org website. If you just go into the Professional Women in Pest Management, our page, there should be a link, and you can fill out an application for a woman in your company. So I'm looking forward to that, and that is given out in the spring. You can also like us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and we are willing with open arms to accept any committee members that would like to join us and move forward with classes and seminars and social gatherings hopefully next year. So with further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the other Kelly with no E. Kelly, I want to pronounce your last name correctly too. It's
Fillion, but because I've been at the company so long and I wasn't married, it was DeColibus, so I kind of hyphenate it for work purposes. But
very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly Fillion is a digital marketing expert who has spent the last 16 years helping small and medium-sized businesses transition into the digital world. She currently resides at ReachLocal, a leading global digital marketing firm that specializes in paid search marketing. She is well versed in all aspects of digital marketing, advertising, and has been with ReachLocal almost 13 years. She's also been at a couple of our New England Pest Management Association conferences, and she actually spoke at one of our dinner meetings a while ago. I remember you, Kelly. So thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. How's the volume? You guys can hear me okay? Everything good? All right. So I want to make this fun and light just because of everything going on in the world. I think on the call, we have different levels of technical savviness, right? So you might have some people that have very old, archaic websites that their cousin made for them, or then you have larger companies that might have 100+ employees, right? So I don't want to bore those people, but I don't want to get too advanced to the others. So we're going to say, if you have any questions, you can even stop me during the time. I'm free to that, any question you have, but we'll go through. I'm going to try to focus on websites, what you need to look at, things that we could run for you, scans, reports that you can get yourself to try to figure out if you have issues, because SEO is so important in your industry, mainly because paid search is very expensive and it's getting more expensive because the auctions are getting out of control, right? So we'll go over that a little too. So like I've been at ReachLocal since 2007, so it's been a long time. We have been acquired by USA Today. So we are the digital arm of USA Today now. And then USA Today, Gannett also bought Thrive Hive and Gatehouse and WordStream, which was in Boston. So these are all AdWord companies, digital marketing firms. And now all campaigns are run on our platform. So that is ReachLocal in a nutshell is a technology firm. So it is a platform for managing and optimizing campaigns. The way we started was selling to ad agencies, where all ad agencies that sold digital were using us. So we were behind the scenes, right? So, we've won we're Google's only global premier partner. So there's a lot of agencies that are premier partners or partners. We're the only global one. So we're multi-location, multi-country at this point with the platforms. But we work with all levels. So we do work with local, like a company that just buys a website for $2,000 to, the NRA, or a company spending 50,000 a month plus, right? So there's all different levels. I focus more on small, medium business. So the local, some franchises, but typically small local businesses. This is some of our products, just so you can know. And we're going to go over, I want to go over some of the creepy targeting today for you guys. So once you have your website and because you don't want to spend any money on digital marketing unless you have a good website. It really is number one. A lot of it is because of the rules of these auctions. These digital auctions are based on quality score and other features of the landing pages that you have on your site, right? So it's not just SEO you have to worry about when you're looking at your website. You have to look at the whole thing, the user experience, how it shows on devices, how fast it loads, because that affects your campaigns. So if you're spending money on campaigns and the site is bad, you're just handing it to Google. You're giving it all to Facebook. You're throwing it away. So you really have to focus on looking at your site. So for our agenda, let's go through what local search is, because that's really what you guys care about. You just have to show up locally on the towns you service, right? Back in the day, obviously you could buy ads in books, right? Like the yellow book, you might spend 300 in that book, 300 in that book, 300 in this book. And you had ads in all these books to service 30 towns, right? Now it's the game, and it is a game, of how to show up in front of somebody searching for pest control keywords in your area, right? And that's going to be a couple different components that we're going to go over. So let's go through the customer journey too, and why digital is important for that, because that's the new age way to find a business. Why a website with SEO is important. So it's not just a website. When you get a new website built, you have to make sure the company that builds it understands SEO, which is why having your cousin or like your designer friend who's a web designer, if they don't understand SEO, they are not going to build it correctly. Okay. And you're going to be at the bottom, right? And then you're going to have to throw out that site and start again. So we can go over some of that criteria, because I don't know how old some of these sites are in the association, but I have seen some, and some, they really need to be thrown out, just to be honest, because they're just not built correctly for responsive design, which we will go through what that is. And what that means technically is your site's like a transformer, and it is going to transform to match the device. So if I load it on a phone, it looks totally different than if I load it on a laptop. Right? It's not the same site. It is 3 versions of a site. Then I want to talk about creepy digital marketing, because I like that. It's creepy. It's targeted. It's legal for now. Not illegal yet. And it's fun, because for advertisers, it's really a good thing, because you don't have to waste money showing to the wrong audience now. You literally can target people that are looking for a pest control person, like researching it, talking about it. All of that is part of it. With websites, half of potential sales are lost because people can't find the information they need, right? So how that affects you is, one, if you don't have really good content on your website and descriptive content, and I know it looks wordy, and I know that sometimes you're like, I don't like it, but you need a landing page for everything that you do, and it needs to be descriptive. That's part of SEO, technical on-site SEO. So that back in the day, you could probably list and say, we do ant removal, we work with mosquitoes, ticks. You could just list it. That you can't do that anymore. That doesn't do anything for you. Your site still won't show. You actually need a page about ticks. You need a page about mosquitoes. You need a whole page about every termites, right? It's all very descriptive, like thesis papers is what I call it. And I think a lot of business owners don't like that. You guys say, oh, it's wordy, but that is good for all your marketing. It's good for humans, even if you think it's too wordy, and it's good for bots. It's good to be found. Okay. There's more stats here. Obviously, we understand the importance of mobile, right? It's growing every day. I think we all do it. We use our phone for everything. Voice search is also increasing, but it's not, it doesn't really affect your business vertical as much, right? The voice search. So you don't have to worry about optimizing your site for voice search as much right now. So for you guys, there's different types of marketing, right? You're going to talk about digital branding, right? Pushing ads at people that might have an interest. And then there's people that are looking now because literally they heard, they saw termites were eating their house, and they're literally just going to start Googling and researching, right? So let's go through that, some of those stats. So there's shifting media consumption. During COVID, as we were talking about in the beginning here, we on the side, we were talking about like, were you guys affected by COVID? The shutdowns didn't affect you that much. It helped you guys, obviously, because kids were home. They were outside, so they wanted to spray for mosquitoes. They were home. They could hear things like wildlife. They could notice things in their house because they're spending so much time there and in their yard, which I think really helped your industry. So you guys are one of the ones that made out really well. And, I'm very thankful for that for you guys because, some industries are destroyed and some do well. So you guys are the winners in that. Content increased dramatically during the shutdowns. Online viewership went way up. Streaming content, watching videos, researching in general went way up because people were, they weren't at work anymore. So all that time you might be with your coworkers, shooting the shit with them. Like that wasn't happening. Instead, you were like doing stuff like researching stuff on the side for your house while you were at work in your work hours, right? So I think we all know that. So the customer journey. The way it works is you think about how you guys buy stuff, right? Like when you're in the market to buy something or you need something, like what do? Right? And there's all these steps along the way. So it's not just one way you get somebody, all these other ways are going to help. So that's why they say marketing is synergistic. It helps each other. So let's go. This is Joe. This is Joe's journey. So his wife's complaining about ants, right? So one thing, she might start seeing a Facebook ad. Now, why could she have seen that ad? Complaining. Now, she could have been speaking to her husband and Alexa listened and sold that data. Like that's how creepy this stuff gets, okay? Every app that you've put on your phone that has voice and you've activated the audio part can sell what you're talking about, okay? So, and I don't know if it's happened to all of you. I mean, it's happened to me. I mean, you could say, I have a headache, and then like all of a sudden you're seeing ads for migraine medication and pharmaceutical ads, okay? This is data that's also in everything we do. So it's what we say, it's what we text, it's what we email, it's what we search, it's what we clicked on, it's what we read. It's literally all of it, which is creepy for some people. I think some people are like, oh, but when you download these apps, the Google app, you get Alexa, you get home devices like Google Hub, all those things, you're willingly accepting it if you were to read the whole legal stuff, right? So I think some people, they find this creepy and they're like, oh, I don't know about this. But as a business owner, you usually like it because you can actually advertise to people in real time. And it's fast, it's real time advertising. So that guy, he might see the ad, then he might search. It doesn't mean he might click the Facebook ad. Doesn't mean that closed him. He still might search for pest control companies. Then he might look at all the reviews for them, write them all down. So he still hasn't contacted anybody, okay? Then engage. So he'll look for more. He might actually start calling them, asking for quotes, right? And at that point, there's different things you can do to target him after the fact, like site retargeting banner ads, site retargeting on Facebook, stalking him around for a while. All of that is part of the digital marketing space. Now, when you're talking about websites, we were talking about responsive design in the beginning and why it's so important. And it is very important, is because if you're going to spend money on Facebook ads or on SEO even, they would fix your site if you had an SEO expert. But paid search, sometimes AdWord companies will still sell you pay-per-click or manage it for you, even if your site is bad. They shouldn't do that. They should actually wait and tell you to buy a better site. Because if your site isn't conversion friendly, if it isn't responsive design, if it's outdated looking, it's not going to convert people. They're going to bounce, right? So it's extremely important if you're going to pay Google $10 for a click, that it's a good experience when people land there. And it's a good experience that they land there on the device they're using. So it's a win-win for everybody if that happens. So they have to be optimized for search engines. And there's a bunch of stuff you can do on that, from content to a click to call button. That's the biggest thing I see that people don't have. Go on your phone on a website, and I should be able to click and call while I'm driving and call you. I shouldn't have to write it down on a piece of paper. I shouldn't have to do any of that. So you have to check that your responsive design or mobile version is click to call. And you want it on the top. You want it easily found. No one should have to go to the contact us page to ever call you, to ever find out your email. No one should have to go there, right? You make it easy, easy, easy. You want forms on every page. You want your email on every page. It's hyperlinks, meaning I could click and email you, right? That's very, very important, especially if you're spending money on digital advertising, because it can get costly. And the point of digital advertising is to send them to your website, right? So that's the most important thing. Obviously, you're going to device proof your website, right? So we're talking about responsive design. I think you guys all know that websites are extremely important, or you should now know that it's extremely important. Most people judge your business based on your website, right? So if it looks crappy, then you're not as good. If it looks really great, then you're a better, more reputable company. And that is just psychology 101 of consumer behavior. A big thing is being able to track, right? So with digital advertising, and even just with the website alone, you want to track your traffic, right? You want to use Google Analytics or a tracking reporting that comes with your website to see what's going on, right? Like, is your traffic trending up or down? Did Google make an update and you lost half your traffic? Then it might be time to hire an SEO person. It might be time to rebuild your site. But you want to see what's happening because it affects your leads so greatly if your traffic dips. So what is SEO technically? I think most people on this call understand search engine optimization, right? And there's different layers of SEO. And this changes as the years go on, right? It progresses. So SEO is going to be the technical work done on your site and how it was built. So site architecture, from the sitemap, which is a blueprint. So if someone made your site for you and they weren't really a web developer, they might have just made a site with no sitemap, which means you made it very hard for a search engine to understand the organization, right? So that's a blueprint. Title tags. Every page should have been titled with what is this page about? And that is making it easy for a search engine to understand what the heck this page is about. This page is about mosquitoes, right? And you would actually want to locally tag it if you wanted to show up locally. So if you wanted to really dominate a town near you that had a big population, you would put that town in your title tag, okay? Structured data schema org markup. That's kind of it's a funny word, but that has to do with snippets, right? So it's how you actually read and highlighted in the search results. It's giving you that little summary, right? And that is something that not just a web designer could do that doesn't understand SEO, right? So not like an artist that makes a pretty site. It's a lot more than that. So some of the reasons. So obviously relevant titles, descriptions on web pages, right? Mobile friendly website, responsive design, site speed. We'll go into that later because I'm going to give you a URL to go check your site. Business info on directories. I don't know if everyone understands how important what they call NAP consistency is. And that is name, address, phone number consistency across all directories on the web. So typically there's a lot of them and you couldn't manage all, but typically if you pay a company to do it, they'll do 50 to 100 typically, depending. Some are more geared towards the ones that matter in your industry, some not. But Google is looking at that to ensure that you're really a local business. So it helps you guys a lot. Listings management. So our firm, we bought a listing management company and that's all they do is listing directory management. And we do 52. So we'll do TomTom, Garmin, Waze. We'll do all the GPS ones, Apple Maps, which a lot of people forget about those. And then other ones as well. And what we do is we clean it up to make sure your name is exact, right? And the phone number is not a tracking line. It's because it has to be the exact same number everywhere. So typically you have to pay a company to do this. I'm sure many of you have done your Google My Business, but if this was cleaned up, your Google My Business would get more impressions. You would show up more in Google My Business for searches if you had NAP consistency. We might have questions about this later because it's hard to understand. People don't understand why it's so important, but it really is a principle called citation, which is how many times you're cited on the web correctly. And it replaced something back in the day called a link farm. And I don't know if anyone has heard of link farms. but Google had taken those down. It's when an SEO person stuck your website on a different website online to reference you, and it was just like a site with a bunch of URLs on it. That was an SEO tactic that is now gone. It doesn't work anymore. So obviously listings are extremely important, right? So you see that 70% of businesses say they don't have time to manage. Of course, you cannot manage them, because the problem with them is they all have their own rules. Some of them take a while to even update, and sometimes they fall back. So like, say you moved into an office building that used to be a dentist and you cleaned them all up. You went through everyone you could find, and you said, no, we're not a dentist anymore. At this location is my pest control company. It might revert back to the dentist. And it's quite annoying, but there's nothing you can do because it's a free listing. You didn't pay for it. So listing management is when you're paying somebody to help you with that, to always clean it up. So for website design and SEO, obviously you want fast, right? So the first thing is it's responsive design, which there are tools to check that. If you go to Google Test My Site Speed, you can find there's a bunch of companies that do it, but you can go to the Google. It will help you. It will tell you what to do to your site to update it. Now, if you don't know how to do that, you still have to hire a company to help you. But if you see your site is so slow, it's usually because all your photos were never sized properly. So they load too slowly when people are pulling it up on laptop or devices. There's other issues it can find, like old URLs, 404 index stuff, and you have to wipe that away. We have a bunch of tools at my firm that we use. SEMrush, Raven, SpyFu. I use SpyFu a lot and Raven a lot. And what I could do is I could scan, like if you wanted to email me, I could scan your site and it would say how many issues are on it. And then it would go through, and it actually goes, when you hit learn more, it actually will tell you, it goes to Google and Google explains the issue. So what are these 6-page issues, right? What do these mean? Or what's a 414 direct issue? It will actually tell you that. Not that you could fix it yourself, because you probably wouldn't know how. It's just so you know there are issues, right? If there's malware on your site, it would show you. If you have duplicate content, because sometimes you could have bought a website from a company that specializes in pest control websites, and they might be using duplicate content because they're getting lazy, and then you all have the same mosquito page, that's going to hurt your SEO, right? So it has to be original content. And I see that a lot, obviously. So SEO obviously is extremely important, as we know, and we talked about, right? Mainly because, if they can't find you, you guys don't get leads, right? So most of your leads now are coming from your websites, I would assume. Websites start, I would say a WordPress site, on a small agency, they start between 5 and 30 grand. There is a huge variance for websites. So you do want to shop around. You want to see how many pages of content they're going to do. If it comes with SEO, obviously that it's responsive design, make sure that you buy that. And then find out what type of site, right? Like WordPress is a very popular one. That's why we choose to do it. But there's different types. WordPress is easy for you to manage yourself in case you lose the relationship with that vendor. If it's Joomla or an old outdated platform like that, you're at the mercy of them to make edits, right? With WordPress, there's 1,000 articles online to help you with that. Our sites come with tracking technology in the back end. So there's a CRM tool. It helps you follow up. And I don't know how many of you guys use CRM tools. Do you have a CRM for lead management? So most people have one now aside from their website. So that's great. So you wouldn't need to use this, but some clients do not, right? So they have no way, they're still putting like Jenny called on a sticky note, right? And it's like they forget to call Jenny back. You're going to lose that customer, right? You're going to lose that customer. So there's automation that can help you guys, which is important. We have a lot of marketing activity reporting. So even if you didn't have marketing with us, we would track your other vendors' marketing, which is pretty cool. So if you're doing Facebook ads yourself, I could actually make it so your website shows a social number. So you could track your social media calls, right? And leads. Or AdWords, if you're doing straight AdWords, we could track that through the website. It's called the Client Center. So it comes with all of that and comes with the site. All right, so search, advertising versus SEO. So we went over SEO. SEO is greatly dependent on your website, right? It's all about your website. It's all about the work done on your website, all about the content done on your website, the metadata, the schema, all of those things, the title tags, all of that is part of that. Speed. So search advertising is different. Search advertising is the paid. Now, we're not going to talk about these ones up here, these guaranteed service ads. Those are more of a straight auction. Some of it's in base still. We're going to talk about normal paid search, right? AdWords, Bing, Yahoo, pay-per-click marketing, right? So this is called a SERP, search engine results page. So you have pay-per-click ads show up, then you have the 3-pack of Google My Business, and then there's more locations here, right? This is why listings and directory management is so important, because having that cleaned up helps you show more in the 3-pack, right? And then you have organic below that. So AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So at my company, and not all companies have this level of sophistication, obviously. We're large, we've been doing this a long time, but when we run an AdWords campaign, one, we set it up correctly from the start, right? So the big thing is making sure that we have multiple ads that match your text ads that match the landing page, right? So if it's a mosquito keyword, the ad talks about mosquitoes and the landing page is the mosquito page, right? When you do it correctly, you get what's a better quality score. A good quality score means you're going to have a lower cost per click. So not all the clicks are equal. They're not. You could be paying double the price for the same keyword as someone else because it wasn't set up right. You don't have landing pages on your site and your text ads weren't written well. All of that can affect you. So the first thing is setting it up correctly. I can skip this. And then what we do, so say it's already set up correctly. What we're able to do with technology is swap out your phone number so that we can track which calls came from keywords. That is unique to our company. It's an API to Google directly. And so we know what we're looking for is the lowest cost per lead. So when the keyword spikes in price, kind of like the stock market, because that's what this is, we know if we should bid or not. So we don't like to free bid. We like to do what's called daily conversion-based optimization. So we want to figure out how low can we bid and get a lead, because that's the game. Not outbidding everybody, not being position 1 for every search. That's not the game. Is get a lead for cheaper. Optimization level bids. There's some human involvement. There's pacing optimization, but all of this really helps with even a small pay-per-click budget, get leads. Because sometimes when you're not getting leads, and in an industry like yours, the vendor might just say, you need more money, you need more money, you need more money. And sometimes you need more money, right? It's competitive. But sometimes you could get a low budget and just get the leads you need, right? And if the cost per click goes crazy, just don't bid on that, right? It's just not worth it. So it does analyze all of that. So it knows if you're paying too much per click, because what matters is that you get a lead. So we got to figure out which keywords produce leads for you at the lowest cost. This is just explaining campaign level bid modifiers. Because pay-per-click is an auction, and this is extremely competitive auction, if a company has this level of technology, we can actually show your ad more to people that are more local and decide not to bid at different times when it looks like the person wouldn't be as serious, right? So it's a lot of algorithms and high technology to optimize the campaign to get better ROI, which I think is important because when you're in a vertical that has a crazy cost per click that's rising, you just can't afford to keep paying that price, right? There's a point of diminishing return with AdWords, and we have to decide what that is. Like, is it worth $40 a click for a pest control click? I mean, is it worth it? Like, at what percentage of the time do you get a lead? And do you close those leads, right? Because if not, you're just paying Google for no reason. This kind of goes through what can happen if you optimize correctly, right? So if you're bidding on a low quality score keyword, meaning they're bidding on the mosquito keyword and you didn't have a mosquito landing page, you might have a ranking of 3.9. You will pay $4.88 for that keyword, where if it was done correctly, you'd be paying $1. Okay. This also shows even bidding on position 2 instead of position 1 can also save you money. So you do not need to be number 1 for every keyword. in every click, right? So that's the deal with AdWords. I feel like most of you guys are doing AdWords, or you've tried AdWords. Some of you might have tried it yourself. Some might have a vendor doing it. I don't know, like if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you get certified, like take the Google test so you understand how to set it up correctly, and then how to at least optimize with the data Google gives you. They do have optimizer tools. The only thing is Google does not swap your number out at the site level. So Google is not going to know that that keyword made your phone ring. So you're not going to be able to rank it yourself and decide how much money to spend on it, right? Where technology platforms can do that because of the level of sophistication that they have. So display, let's get into creepy display. So back in the day, I talked about yellow book ads and like IDARC. Remember you guys would buy like a little ad in the book, and you buy like these couple towns and these couple towns, and you might spend like $2,000 a month just to be in these books. And it worked. People called you. And then Google happened, and they pretty much put yellow books phone books out of business, right? So a lot of people, and I don't know if you guys still invest in like ads in magazines, but there might be like trade magazines or home improvement magazines, and you might put your ad in there being like, oh, like it's a Boston magazine and we're Boston. You don't really have to do that anymore because you can actually find the users online at any time, wherever they are, right? And so there's multiple ways to do this. And you've probably encountered it yourself. Obviously, site retargeting is one, which pest control doesn't do a lot of it, because usually when people get to your site, they call pretty quickly, right? Because it's like, oh my God, I need someone now. But some of you might do some site retargeting pixels where, for 3 days after they come to your site, you just follow them around. Like, hey, don't forget to call us. And that could be good. Search retargeting is the tactic where, this one isn't the right slide. We'll go over to search. Search retargeting. Search retargeting is when we take keywords that are similar to your pay-per-click keyword list, like people researching termites, people researching ants, and they haven't said they want to hire somebody. They're just doing their research. At that moment, we can start showing them ads wherever they go in the open network. So they were researching ants and how to remove them themselves, and maybe chemicals to buy. Like, oh, what should I buy to kill these ants, right? Do it themselves. They then could go to social media if you're doing social, because social media buys that data as well. But let's just say they go to just the weather site, the weather channel. They're just going to go check the weather for the weekend. They would see a banner ad for you. That's keyword search retargeting. So you're stalking somebody based on their behavior, and it's based on keyword level behavior that you provide. So it's extremely targeted, but it's not about the site they're on. So it's not about that they're on a home services site. They're on any site they want to be. They could be on an automotive site. They could be on a dating site. It does not matter. They could be on NASDAQ. But we know they were researching ants, killing ants. So we show a banner ad for you. That banner ad is a free click. And typically it's very low cost. Our CPM rate, cost per 1,000 impression rate for that, is like $7, $6. So every 1,000 times your ad shows in front of somebody researching ants, it's about $6. So it's extremely inexpensive. The other one is keyword and contextual targeting is based on those type of home services sites. I don't usually promote those because I think it's more targeted to do keyword search retargeting. So I don't really see the point of doing keyword or category contextual. It's kind of old school to me, meaning if you're an auto dealer, you don't need to just put your ad on auto sites like cars.com or Kelley Blue Book or AutoTrader or cars.com. You don't need to do that because you already know they're looking for a car. So just show an ad where they want to go. They want to go to a dating site, show them an ad, right? So it's less about the sites now, and it's more about the user. It's about the profile of the user. Geofencing is, and you guys don't really do a lot of geofencing, but you could, if you wanted to go after high-end restaurants and say, you know what, when they walk into that restaurant, I want to tag them and show them an ad for me, right? So you could say that, everyone in this high-end neighborhood dines at this steakhouse. If you really want to show an ad in front of those people, you can do that with geofencing. And that is really inexpensive. It's like $6 every 1,000 times you show up. The other types are addressable geofence, which is getting very popular. That is when we are able to target people in their house, all the devices in their house, right? So you could give me a list of neighborhoods, right? And, or we can develop one for you too. And every device in the house would start showing ads for you. So wherever they're on, any site they're on that's in the open network, they would start seeing an ad. So that's good to go after exact people. If you had a mailer list, like an old school mailer list where you were sending mailers out, that's the perfect list, right? Some people will do addressable geofence with the mailer because they assume some people are going to throw it out or ignore it. You still can show up in front of their face while they're online. Did you guys know that technology was available? Does anyone want to chat or answer? Is anyone doing it? Addressable geofencing? No? No one tried it? Okay. It's since a lot of you have mailing lists, it's a good product for you. It's again very inexpensive. It's like $6 every 1,000 times they see you is how you're charged. Free clicks to your site. Curated audience is when you don't have that list, but you said, hey, I want to target homeowners that have one child that make, over 100 grand combined or 200,000 combined in this town. I mean, you give us all that, we can build the list and target them in their house, the devices in their house. So that is another really popular one for pest control, right? Curated audience, addressable geofence. What we're able to do too is track, and the tracking is really cool with these products, these display products. And not all companies could do this, but we have the capability. We could track what's called a view through visit. And what that means is just because they didn't click through the banner ad immediately does not mean it didn't work, right? You're paying for eyeballs. This is branding, right? It's very targeted branding. So when you're talking about a view through, what I could tell you is, hey, your banner got 50 clicks. In a month, you showed up 200,000 times and you had 50 clicks. And you'd be like, oh, that kind of sucks, right? Like, yeah. But then I could tell you, but 150 people went to your site later. So that branding message might have worked, right? So they kept seeing it. And we know for a fact that person in a month went back to your site organic. That's what's called a view through. And it's pretty new technology within the last 2 years, but it is good to show a client that, branding works. Right? And like, it'd be cool if your billboard could do that, right? If you had a billboard, if it could, one, show to the right audience, but second, if you could know if people went to your site after. And I think when you do a billboard, you can actually see a spike in traffic, which does prove some value, right? For those eyeballs. But that's what a view through visit tracking is. So everything is about cookies and tracking. Here's an example. That's an auto client. And their banner ad had 550 clicks, right? From the banner ad. And those are free clicks. Great. But they had for $6 every 1,000 times it showed up, they had 1,019 clicks later. So those are people that saw the banner ad over and over and then came back to the site. They never came through the banner ad itself, right? So sometimes if you have a banner ad, it doesn't mean it didn't work because it didn't get a lot of clicks, right? Another part of branding obviously is social ads, Facebook, Instagram ads. Now Facebook owns Instagram, right? So when you're buying Facebook ads, you are also usually buying Instagram ads unless you told it not to do that, right? Or unless you said, I don't want Instagram people, right? Or you shut it off. So typically, if you run Facebook ads, and I know tomorrow there's supposed to be people that all drop out of Facebook. I know there's a huge rumor that millions of people are going to get off Facebook. I don't know if those same people are going to try to delete Instagram too. I'm not really sure if they understand that they're both owned by Facebook. So if you want to hurt Facebook, you have to hurt Instagram too. But it'll be interesting to see if that dips campaigns. That would be interesting. But there are right now 1.8 billion monthly users. And that's typically growing. I know the political drama is making people hate them. So a lot of stuff is happening with that. But it is extremely targeted branding, and it's one of the best local branding products you could buy, right? Just because of the mass of quantity of eyeballs in that stream, right? So for your money, even at a low cost Facebook campaign, people see you. Like a lot of people see you, and they're all very local. So it works really well. It can actually help all your other campaigns to do social ads. What we do is we optimize it because everything we do is like optimized with crazy technology. But we actually have what we call smart social ads that will figure out which targeting type is getting you more leads or whatever your goal is. If your goal is leads, it will figure out, is it the retargeting ones? Is it the carousel ads? What type of ad video works well? What are working the best to get you a return for whatever your goal is? And typically your goal is going to be leads, not just followers, but leads, right? So all of that is tracked. Even Facebook has its own reporting too, right? So even if you're just doing it yourself, there is reporting. It won't track your like call leads, right? It won't do that because it doesn't swap your number out, but it will track certain things and visits that you get. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing Facebook ads, or some of you just for branding, maybe the larger ones, just to spend some money just to get out there. You can go after certain demographics. It is pretty targeted. It might not be as targeted as some of the display stuff, but it's getting there because they do buy data that's off of Facebook. So the stuff you do off of Facebook counts to when they show you ads on Facebook. There's also other ways to buy digital marketing. YouTube, we're going to get into YouTube because I love YouTube. LinkedIn ads, Snapchat, Spotify, Twitter. We sell all those Waze ads. For pest control, they're really not big yet. Really, it's Facebook for you guys and SEO, paid search, websites. Maybe LinkedIn ads for hiring. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but that could work for you. But really, you're going after a higher, a more affluent clientele, or at least a homeowner, starting at age 30 and up, typically, right? So YouTube ads. I want to show you guys this if we had time, and I'm glad we do, because I want to show you, I don't know if everyone understands what a true view YouTube ad is. So true view means that you only pay if they don't skip it. Okay? If they do not skip it. So that means all the times you guys have been online and you see it says in 3 seconds you can skip. I'm sure we've all seen that. 3 seconds you can skip. If that advertiser has their logo in the beginning, that was free. If you watch 29 seconds of that video and stop, the advertiser is charged $0. It is free. So I tell people, you all want to do this. If you have a video, you want to do TrueView because it is so much free. It's crazy, right? Only the TrueView. You don't want to do pre-roll where you make them watch it. If you force them to watch it, you're paying for every impression to people that might not really care. But for the people that don't really care and skip it, you got free branding in your market. So we start campaigns at $1,000, but your $1,000 can take a while to spend because if some people don't want to watch it, they won't, and you don't get charged, right? So it's beautiful. We've been managing them, and we've actually been beating the price that Google gets when they run them, right? Because Google owns YouTube. So we're at about an average of 7 cents a true view. So every time they watch 30 seconds, it's 7 cents out of your $1,000 budget. But it's very targeted, right? The demographics do reach what you guys are looking for, where it's a high percentage of 35 and up, right? A lot higher than you would think. Obviously 2 billion users. Now, the beauty of YouTube ads is you don't have to be on YouTube, right? Like to see ads, you don't have to go to YouTube. Somebody could have shared a YouTube video on social media and you are on YouTube. There could be an embedded video in a site and that's hosted by YouTube, right? So it's everywhere. It's not just, I went to YouTube to look at videos. It's not what it is. So the benefits of TrueView are really that you can target people that like home services stuff, people that are into this, people that want to buy this, people this. There isn't people looking for pest control as really a targeting, but you could definitely go into the income targeting. You could do people that like certain things, like they're interested. So anything related that your buyer's into, like maybe beauty, like maybe you're thinking affluent women, or you can go into a lot. There's a lot of targeting that you can choose. There just isn't the targeting like an appliance dealer for people looking to buy an appliance, like people looking to buy a car. Those are the in-market buyers. There isn't really in-market for pest control, not exactly, but you definitely can get into people that like this or that, right? So it's something that I don't know if any of you have tried it. If you have a Facebook video you've been running, if you have a Comcast video, if you still do that. I know with Comcast, over the top streaming videos is popular. We also do that, where it's just streaming. There's no cable. You're watching a commercial. You cannot skip it though, on all these platforms that are streaming. So it's a very popular product. But even Comcast and companies like that, they know cable's dying, right? So they kind of give you both. They're like, oh, do some cover. But those videos work great. We sell videos. You could get a kid in your area to make you a really nice video. Some of them are really good that college kids will make because they're really good at editing videos now, right? So you can make your own videos. It's better to have it if it's professionally edited, obviously, right? But it needs to be at least 30 seconds. And you can't trick it. You can't do 25 seconds and then a black screen because Google's onto you for that. People were doing that. But it is something to think about. So since we have time, I'm going to go over chat. Chat is something also that's very popular for pest control. It's very low cost. We start chats at $99 a month. It's a 24-hour service of a chat. The stats are that it can increase your leads by 30%, up to 30%. And what that is people that chat, they don't want to email you or call. They literally are chat people. They like chatting, right? Sometimes it helps you get more leads because it's like a 24-hour salesperson on your site, right? The goal isn't for the chat person to sell them or give you prices. That's really not what it is. It's to find out who they are. So a woman is on your site at 11 o'clock at night and you are closed. She knows that. She's not going to call you. She could email you or submit a form, or it could pop up and say, hi, how can I help you? And she just feels compelled to talk to the chat. And then at that point, you get a real lead in the moment. So it's Pam. Pam lives in this town and she has an ant issue. Great. And then you'd immediately get that lead so you can follow up. And like I said, it's extremely cheap, even if you want to try it. We're talking about like $99 a month or less for AI chat, which self-learns how to respond. There's human chats too, which aren't even that much more expensive. There are tons of chat companies. We use a chat company, but there's millions out there. But once you have your website done, it is something that you should think about, is adding a chat on there, especially if you want more after-hour leads, because it's just so affordable that it makes sense. Do most of you have a chat? Does anyone want to chat? You can chat on the chat about chat? No? I assume most, I can go look at some of your sites. I assume the higher end or more employed companies might have tried chat in the past. There's so many companies and they hit you up all the time. But it is something very low cost and cheap that you guys can consider adding to your site. All right. So we have time. Yeah, we have like 10 minutes left. So if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question about, I don't know why, do you guys see a red line on this? I don't know why my monitor has a red line. Do you guys see a red line on the deck or no? Kelly, do you?
Yeah.
I don't know. That like just showed up like today. I don't know what that happened. That's weird. Very weird. All right. On my end, I don't see the red thing. Okay. Anyone have a question? No. Sure.
So my question was about, you mentioned, I forget what the program was called, but basically where you're in a specific neighborhood and you can curate that, send information to people in that neighborhood. So I'm kind of comparing that. I'm a sales inspector with the Big Blue Bug, and we do the clover leafing when we're at a residence for a current customer, it's having an issue, say with rats or something that's in the environment. We'd go out and put knockers on all these other doors. So is that something I could specifically, if I have the addresses and the street names, I could do that with that service?
Yeah, you could do it before you go. Yep. So you could run that like for the weeks before you go. So they feel like, oh, I've heard of them before. Like, oh, I've heard. So so you cold call and knock on the door, which is very effective. I mean, they do it at my house. I live in Wyndham, New Hampshire. Yeah, there's a couple that, it's aggressive. I think it's great. Go for it, but yeah, that's a good way to do it pre-canvassing, and maybe you could run it all the time if you wanted to in that neighborhood. You could just run it a month or whatever you want to do. But yeah, it would be banner ads that show on mobile phones and devices and laptops. It technically does too, but it's a lot more. It's spent more on the mobile networks than it is the display networks. But yeah, you would make HTML5 banner ads. We usually give them to you free, 10 sizes if you order campaigns from us. So you'd have every size imaginable, because when you're doing display, you need to fit on every like
Right.
on sites, they have special spots for advertisers, right? If you only have like one size, you're only fitting on the sites on the web that have that size, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
your cost, your CPM goes up because in the auction, there's only so many spaces you can fit, right? And in a display is an auction. All of these are auctions, which is why Google makes so much money, right? And they own display networks too. But yes, absolutely. Curated audience, or in that case, you would be doing what's called addressable geofencing.
Okay.
Okay, addressable geofencing is when you give me the address list already. So it's easy, and it's a mathematical formula where I can figure out the budget you might want to spend.
Yep.
You could spend less. It just means you might not show up as much in each house. Like
Right.
say your goal was to show up 10 times in that house, right, on those devices. You need a budget enough for that. But that's typically how you do it. Yep. So it's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Or you could do it just like you do with postcards. Same thing, same message. You just, instead of them throwing it out, they can't get rid of it because it's live on a site, on any site. Most sites that get traffic are in the open network, which means they want money. So they build spaces in their site, right? So even Kohl's, if you go to Kohl's, there are other companies advertising on Kohl's. That's because they're in the open network. You'll see credit card ads there. You'll see local business ads there because of how you were targeted. So any large site that wants to make more money typically is open network. They allow ads from every place to get on there.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I can email you information on curated audiences and addressable geofence if you want to.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions on some of the creepier targeting, like branding stuff? I don't know. I think with pest control, you guys do some branding, but it would be more SEO and paid search. It's more about getting leads. I feel like immediately is what the focus is. But for the larger companies, yeah, you guys do probably more branding where you're going to buy more media and try different things just to get your name out there because you're multi-location, which makes sense.
Hi, Kelly. I do have a question, looking for a little feedback from you.
Sure.
I am a commercial inspector, but I do not deal with residential businesses. My target customers are all commercial. So is there any, and the information that you shared today is really probably, it can be for all of us, but I was wondering, as there is a difference on how a commercial customer seeks information, do you have any type of feedback on that, what you recommend or what you see that may be more beneficial when you're dealing with a commercial audience account development?
Yep. So in the past, what you guys probably did was more, putting a magazine ad on like the trade magazine, like the pest control trade magazine, right? You put an ad there. Like, oh, because people that own pest control companies are going to read this magazine. I'm going to put my ad there, right? It makes perfect sense. You technically can do the same thing with display ads, with targeted display, which is banner ads, right? It's just a B2B targeting method. So you would do more of the, remember how I said for pest control, like for the other owners of just pest control companies, right? Small, medium businesses, they don't really need to go after pest sites, right? Like blogs that talk about chemicals, but you do. So
yes,
you would want to do contextual targeting, right? So actually I can back up to that slide. Hold on a minute. So category contextual. So that would be the category could be pest related. So it would be the sites that the experts in the field go to, right? So that's when, and the other thing is you could do keyword and you would give me a list of everything these business owners research. So they're looking up Forshaw's chemicals, they're looking up this, they're looking up that, they're looking at the prices of this chemical and this device and this sprayer gun they can buy. If someone's searching that, they're probably in the pest control industry because I'm not searching that, right? So you can definitely do keyword search retargeting, which is my favorite targeting because it's extremely targeted. It's more targeted than anything because literally you're giving me the list of keywords. And then we do keywords that are similar of what people are searching in that behavior that you need your ad to show in front of them. So even if the business owner goes to Fox News after they were researching mosquito sprayers, you will show an ad for the mosquito sprayer or your company, whatever you do, to them on Fox News.
Okay,
make
that
sense?
sounds good.
Yep. So absolutely B2B can do it. Like anyone selling anything can do this. It's just, you know, you just have less people to target is really all it is, you know.
Yeah.
But for you, when there's a pest control event, I know we're virtual right now, but when we go back, like hopefully one day, when we go back to trade shows, you would want to fence that show.
Yeah.
And that would be called the geofence.
Yeah.
So I've done it for companies like Thermo Fisher, you know, so when there is life sciences, right? Like when they sell test tubes and stuff, right? So there's a San Diego trade show with all the doctors and scientists going. I mean, yeah, you're going to target their devices, right? So when they walk into the show, we target their device. We show ads for your company, pure branding, but to scientists and doctors in real time because they walked into the show. Will you get the guy that's waiting tables at the show? Yeah, you're going to get his phone too. But at the end of the day, most of the people at that trade show are plastic surgeons or they're this type of doctor or that. So for your business, if you sell to B2B, you sell to pest control industry, you would want to hit up those large shows for a regular geofence campaign. Like every trade show, and especially if you're going to the trade show, you should fence it. And you could even have an ad that says, come to our booth. And then you could switch the ad for after the event that says something else. So it's pretty cool stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. And then find out the rates though. I will say this with geofencing, the rates are crazy. Like our geofence rate's like $5-6 every 1,000 times, but like the radio companies, they'll sell it to you for 40 because they're selling digital now and like they don't own the medium, right? And they're not used to the fact that you can't make that much money now selling digital. Because when you sell a radio ad, you get all the money in the agency. When you're reselling tactics from display networks, you're just getting a cut. So I think for radio, they oversell it because they're just not used to the fact that it's a volume game at this point for digital advertising. Like no one agency makes a lot of money managing one campaign, right? It's really a scalable volume game. Because of that, because you're selling something you do not own. Like we don't own the display network. Google owns it. Yahoo owns one. We have some display networks because we own USA Today, right? So we own a site with traffic. But typically, old school agencies are having a problem because as you buy less radio, less TV, they're not making money, right? And they're not used to getting a tiny cut, like selling Facebook. They don't want to sell Facebook. They don't own Facebook. Right? It makes sense. If you're used to selling radio and you own the radio station, you got all the money. So it's a transition. It's a transition for a lot of agencies. And a lot of agencies partner with us because they can't even learn this fast enough, or the sales reps, because it's just so much. The good thing with my company is that I've been here so long that it started with search, and that's all we did was paid search. And then as new things came out, like we learn as we go. So as like a new employee, it's hard. There's a lot of tactics. And there's a lot of rules with how these work, right? How display works, the rules for display, how to set it up properly versus AdWords. What's the difference, right? Versus SEO, what's the difference, right? So it's very complicated. But the good news for business owners and for companies is there's so much less waste now in advertising that you really can just go after who you want and pay for it and be done. The profile, you can just get your profile and be done instead of blasting it to everybody who doesn't need to see it. So except for YouTube, I like because it's still pretty, it's really local YouTube. I mean, you could just do one town if you wanted to. You literally could just do one town. But so many people skip that you only pay you get twice as much impressions because a lot of people, you know, the lazy people won't skip, or the people really interested will watch it. But the goal I find with it is just get the free branding. Like that's my biggest thing with that is I love it because they'll watch 25 seconds of your video and skip. And it's like, that costs you nothing. And you were like running a commercial at somebody. So in YouTube, it's getting popular. I don't think business owners understand what TrueView is. So I don't know if did anyone know that regarding Google?
No.
So no one knew that like if you skipped it, the advertiser paid nothing, even if you skipped it at 28 seconds?
Nope, didn't know that.
Isn't that amazing? I think that's why they keep doing training. Like, you know, YouTube doesn't understand why people aren't buying it either. Like, they really don't get it. Like, I don't think people know. I don't think business owners know, right? So it's kind of a huge push to tell them about YouTube and how popular it is. Although YouTube had issues yesterday. Did anyone else notice that? It was kind of crashed. YouTube, yes, issues with
Yeah, I
YouTube.
noticed.
Yeah, people were complaining, saying, "Oh, what happened to YouTube?" I think it slowed down. But I think you're going to see TrueView right now is so cheap because it's like what AdWords was like 12 years ago, where not a lot of people did AdWords. It was just Fortune 500 companies did AdWords. Like an auto trader might do AdWords, but the local dealer didn't. That's where we are with TrueView. It's like anybody can do it, but no one is because they don't really get it. So the cost per view being like 7 cents is so cheap. They do expect that in the future that will keep going up. So for a TrueView, it will be 30 cents. For a TrueView, it could be 60 cents. But right now we're talking about 7 cents for a 30-second view of your commercial. And anyone can make these videos. I mean, you guys could probably make your own if you're savvy. You know, there's tools. Instagram has tools. TikTok, you can make a TikTok and make that a video and air it if you really wanted to. But typically, like, we have a deal where it's 3 videos where they come out to film. They could do like drone footage. You could do whatever you want. 3 videos for $1,800. So there's 600 each. Typically, it's $950 for one. I would say $1,000 for one video, 30 seconds is pretty standard. Even if like you met a college kid and they're like, "Yeah, I'll do your video." Maybe they'll do it for $500. You could ask, but you want to get some sort of, you know, it's edited together nicely. It's not completely just a cell phone one that you guys made yourself. You could run that, but you might as well, since you're getting so many views, you might as well make it more professional. And it's not expensive. Videos are, I mean, everybody can make videos now. So, you know, you can have, there are companies that make like a new video every week and they do it for Facebook. Sometimes they buy the ads on Facebook with it. Sometimes they just post it. Sometimes I mean, we do social media marketing too, where we manage it. Do you guys hire out for that, or do you guys do that yourself? Most of you do your own, right? Or a marketing director. So the larger ones might have a marketing person or a media buyer. They might manage the social media, or are there vendors that do it pretty low cost for you guys?
Yeah, we have an outside social media marketing company.
Okay, yeah. So there's some that might just do pest control. There might sometimes there's kids from college start their own little company and they just do. I'll do 3 posts a week. The key with your posts is you kind of need to boost them now, because if you don't put money behind it, even just $5, no one really sees it. And that's kind of the shadiness from Google, Facebook. They do suppress it. They want you to put money behind it. So if you do, whoever's doing your social media management, you might want to give them a little money to boost. It's not an ad, it's a boosted post, not a Facebook ad. They're different. Which we could, you know, it's pretty easy to tell the difference. It doesn't have a call to action under it. It's literally a post that just shows to more people.
Kelly, I have a question.
Sure.
You talked about, you know, the different avenues of YouTube and Amazon, etc. You had the whole list there. I've gotten phone calls from Amazon of having advertisements on Alexa.
Like a radio ad?
I don't even know. I don't even know, but I wasn't sure if you were familiar with that kind of.
I don't. So we don't sell ads yet on Alexa. That would be like a radio ad. We do Spotify. It's probably coming. But typically for Alexa, unless they're talking about the Alexa app having some sort of visual ad, you'd have to ask them. Like, it might be both, where you have like a radio ad, right? It's like, you know, so when people are listening to music, they hear an ad and it's your ad. I don't know the price point of it. I don't know. We don't resell that yet in our custom solutions. But I'm sure it's coming. I mean, pretty much. I mean, Parler is going to sell ads when they figure that out. Like Parler, if people really do cancel Facebook and go to Parler, which is a different social app, eventually to make money and monetize, they have to have ads, right? So that would just become a new revenue stream if you're trying to target that audience. But of course, you wouldn't do it yet because it's not big enough yet. But if that grows, Parler in the next 2 years, yeah, I mean, those could be your, you know, the people you want to target, right? Those could be affluent people. They could be homeowners. I mean, you'd want to look at the targeting, and it would be a good idea to do that. Do you guys do a lot of radio and stuff like that? More of the audio advertising, maybe the large ones. I wouldn't, it's very expensive. I wouldn't like radio and not really Spotify ads, not really that, but typically some of the old school marketing is a lot more expensive than digital. Because digital, it's kind of like you buy as much as you want, right? And sometimes you don't need that much because you only service a few towns, right? Or you can't even handle that much work anyway. So you don't have a big budget, right? It really depends on what you need, which is why optimizing everything makes sense, because if you're just going to free spend advertising, you're going to waste a lot as you figure it out, right? So it's good to start in the know with, I know what keywords convert already because of historical data, which a lot of companies have and Google will give you. And then optimize from there to how much are you willing to spend cost per lead. It's not just cost per click, it's cost per lead. What is it worth? Just because Google says a click is $20 doesn't mean it's worth it. It's just you guys are willing to pay that. So you have to decide when you're not, right? Like it's kind of like college, right? College keeps rising in prices. When are the parents going to say, no, you're not going to college, we're not paying that, right? That has to happen with Google too. Like it's going to have to happen. So that's why in industries like yours, where it just gets out of control, the cost per click gets over $10, where $1,000 is only getting you 100 visits to your site, which is okay if most of those people call you, but that's just not the reality. They don't always do, right? So that's why having a conversion friendly site is good. But it just gets crazy. It gets too much. And that's, for me, I feel digital advertising should save you money because it's ultra targeted. You can optimize it, right? It's trackable. Because of those things, you should be spending less than you did before, not more. So, and that might take you canceling some of the old school stuff because it just doesn't work anymore and you need to transition, right? But when you transition, you should be saving money, not spending, like you don't need the same radio budget to do a Spotify ad. You don't need, that was overpriced to begin with. Maybe you're spending 10 grand on radio. You could spend 1,000 on Spotify and almost get the same results because you were targeting, you pay for all the radio people in like Kiss 108, for instance, is very expensive. You're getting all the way to New Hampshire. You guys might not even service that if you're in South Shore, Mass. So it doesn't really make sense that you had to pay for people in New Hampshire just because they can hear it. But you do. That's just how they sell it. You're getting all of it. So I think for a local business, it just makes sense to dial down and be like, well, what do I need? How am I gonna prove ROI? And sometimes you can't. Sometimes the banner ads you can't prove ROI. There's no way we can track everything, but we're like, we don't know if they eventually called. It's past the time of tracking. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Will they tell you they saw a banner ad? I don't know.
Kelly, thank you. Thank you. We could listen to you all day.
Yeah, sorry. I know. It's fun. It's fun. Any more? You know what? If you guys have any questions, let me go to that screen again. You can obviously email me if you want some of these tactics or different tactics. Oops. I think
And we can also send out your information too on an email for everybody that registered with all your information. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach you, email. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not any level too. It's any level. I mean, if you don't have a big budget, that's fine. There's things that you can do, even just a chat that could help you.
I mean, I got a couple of tidbits. I'll be probably following up with you as well, and things that I just didn't know. I mean that True View was, I think, probably an eye opening for some of us. But
it's my
Kelly,
favorite. Yeah, it's one of my favorites because I can't.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Appreciate you supporting us and wishing you the best. And everybody, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Stay well, healthy, all that good stuff. And hopefully we'll be live next year somewhere.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Have
Take care, everybody.
Have a good rest of the day, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.